Hey, what's up YouTube? You already know it's AllCity Live TV, and thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to be talking about PS5's new DualSense wireless controller and how this controller, accompanied by the advanced capabilities of the next-gen consoles, is going to change your NBA 2K gameplay experience completely. SummerGameFest.com recently published a video by Jeff Keighley getting a first look, a first hands-on experience with the new PS5 DualSense wireless controller. He shared his thoughts and his opinions, how he felt playing with the new controller. He also got an opportunity to speak to PlayStation's global marketing director, and I think this is good information for you guys. So after watching this video by Jeff Keighley about the DualSense wireless controller, which I chopped up and edited for you guys to make it a little easier and showcase and highlight the advanced features within the DualSense wireless controller, please stick around so I can explain and elaborate on how I believe NBA 2K decided to redevelop and restructure NBA 2K21 from the ground up so that the developers can harness the full capabilities and all of the new features within the new DualSense wireless controller. Let's get right into it.
This right here is the PlayStation 5 DualSense. The DualSense introduces a couple new innovations. The big things that I've noticed are the adaptive triggers, the L2 and R2. Designers can actually create tension points as you pull this down at certain percentages. And give the player feedback. That's a unique sensation that is going to have a pretty big impact, I think, longer term on gameplay. Harmony between the controller sound and what's happening in the PlayStation 5 is really, really unique and interesting. See what ice feels like, what sand feels like in different surfaces. What's the weight of it? What does it feel like? Compared to the DualShock for PS4, it definitely weighs a little bit more, but doesn't feel substantially heavier. And if anything, I think it actually has a little more heft to it in a good way, that it feels more structured. This is a demo that is focused, I think, more on the controller and the haptics and the adaptive triggers. You can even hear the sound of my bot walking around. So full 6 degrees of motion as always. Looks like I'm gonna have to flick up here on the pad to release my bot. You hear the crisp sounds of sand coming at you. There's a tension in the controller from going over this sand environment. All right, so I have this suit, and I'm gonna push up on the controller, zip him up. This is the frog suit, and this frog suit shows off the adaptive controllers. So I'm going to move my controller left and right, and these adaptive triggers are really, really cool, and I've never felt something like this before in a console controller. As you push down on the controller, there's tension now in these adaptive triggers, and it's programmable. And here, I'm going to pull down on this, and again, you see this ice, but you hear a storm literally inside of the DualSense, and sort of a small little rumble from the haptics. It's not ASMR, this is PSMR. You guys hear that? His little footsteps? All this is coming out of the controller. Now this one, you actually have to blow into the controller. Again, this one, you pull back, just like a bow and arrow almost, and look, I unlocked a PlayStation 3. So joining me now is the worldwide head of marketing at PlayStation, Eric Lempel.
So what we did is, early on, we had another version of the title that we took around to the developers that were engaged in PlayStation 5 development and showed them what was possible with a title. And it's been a great example, and it's really opened up people's minds to how they can use this new device and really the new features of the controller. So we want to evolve every part of the experience. And the controller is really the most intimate part of the experience. It's the extension of the player. Let's go a step further. Let's see how a new generation can express a whole new feeling. And that's where the DualSense came about. A big pillar of our company's innovation. It's a pillar of Sony Corporation. It's also a pillar of the PlayStation company. And We are always trying to push the boundaries. We push the boundaries of play. That's what we say internally. We want to excite gamers, want to deliver new experiences. So as we go into a new piece of hardware, it really has to check the box on a lot of different areas to fulfill those promises. This brings it to a whole new place. It's haptic feedback. It's these adaptive dynamic triggers. Something no one's ever experienced before. And it really brings you closer to the game. The biggest joy for us is putting this in the hands of developers, because developers want to push the technology as far as it can go to tell stories and really bring the gamer into their worlds. And we believe, all of these things combined, as well as all the other great PS5 features we spoke about, really lead to a next generation experience. You need new hardware. You need new devices to experience what these developers want you to experience.
Playing Astros, one of the things that my mind started racing with was thinking of how this is going to apply to a game like Ratchet, because sort of similar gameplay style, but with the audio, the speaker in the DualSense, and the haptics and the adaptive triggers. One feature we haven't talked much about is the SSD and that sort of input-output on the device, and how that's going to allow a lot of interesting things. And when I saw the event in June, that Ratchet trailer just blew me away with jumping between those worlds so quickly. And could you maybe talk a bit about that feature, which I didn't really, Astro's not a game I think that really is needs the SSD to function the way it is. Can you talk a bit about the SSD and how that's going to impact the experience?
Sure. And this ties back nicely to your question about generations, because when you look at a game like Ratchet, and we talked about a lot of different features today, and as you mentioned, we haven't mentioned SSD. That is another thing that will make the whole gaming experience different. It'll make it better, but it also allows the developers to do new things. It isn't just about faster loading time. And you take a great developer like Insomniac, and they found a way to say, okay, look, here's a game that could only be made on PlayStation 5, on this generation, using this technology. A lot of what you saw in the show, jumping through those different worlds instantly, just can't be done in most cases. And it needs new hardware, it needs new power. So that's something we're looking forward to. All of these things come together. You combine that with 3D audio, with the controller, ray tracing. These are great experiences, and these developers know how to harness every piece of those features to really bring you a unique experience. And that really speaks to what next gen is for us. Play has no limits. For us, it is really about speaking to innovation and speaking about new experiences that you can have with PlayStation that you never expected. And really, it's how we push ourselves. We don't constrain ourselves. We want to push the limits of gaming all the time.
Alright guys, so now that you watched the video by Jeff Keighley about the new DualSense wireless controller, what do you guys think? I would love to hear your opinions in the comment section below, but I wanted to share my thoughts, my theories on how 2K could really harness the full power of the DualSense wireless controller along with the full capabilities of the next gen systems. And some of the theories that I have are things like managing your stamina. For instance, if you have a low amount of stamina, you might be able to feel that within your hand with the haptics that are one of the new features in the DualSense wireless controller. Also, being that the triggers are pressurized, if they're pressurized, they can incorporate that into your shooting. Being that there's already somewhat of a power bar that 2K's been trying to introduce for the longest time, and I'm sure when they saw the new features of pressurized triggers, being that they're able as developers to go by percentage points, that pressure could actually be transformed into us using the triggers as our shooting buttons, which I thought was somewhat, listen, my mind is racing, so there's so many different ideas that we could actually incorporate. I don't even know if you guys noticed during that video of the highlights about the DualSense wireless controller, they did mention actually blowing into the controller to have some sort of player response on screen, which I thought was super dope, and that kind of expanded my mind on all of the possibilities that 2K and the 2K developers can incorporate into next gen experience. So please share your thoughts. I would love your feedback. If you're new to the channel and you found this video helpful and or informative, please consider subscribing to our channel, as we're gonna have a ton of not only NBA 2K20 content, but we're also gonna have a ton of NBA 2K21 content on the next gen consoles. I'll catch you guys on the next video.